Yeah. Listen, we've seen some matches. Phoenix Rising, that 2023 one, they had some late winners, and the luck was on their side in that year. Not so tonight. Phoenix Rising losing and out of the USL Championship Playoffs on literally the last kick of the match. A lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, a lot to talk through. We'll see you in 30. Oh, man. Oh, man. Well, welcome in to the PHNX Rising postgame show. Appreciate everyone joining us. Phoenix Rising losing in epic, heartbreaking fashion last kick of the match. You thought it was heading to penalties. You knew we all knew before this match started, likely going past 90. Penalties seemed like it was going to happen, and it's setting up for the storyline. It's going to happen, but no. Last kick of the match. Tulsa win it at the death. I'm Max Simpson. I'm with Rees Goodall. Owain Evans going to be joining live from Tulsa in a matter of minutes. Rees, there's so much what we can get into, but just like overall right now, how are we doing, man?
That was one of the worst games I feel like we've had to watch this season, and we've had to watch some pretty bad games.
Yeah.
The Stefan Lukic goal, which came in the 122nd minute,
Spain.
was the second shot on target in the entire game.
Gross.
There was no attacking play from anybody in this game. It was an ugly game. For those wondering when Rising's only shot on target came, it was the 64th minute from Charlie Dennis. The rest of the game, they did not have a shot on target. We knew going into this that was kind of going to be the way this game went, that it was going to be ugly, it was going to be defensive, but it was so much worse than that. I don't think that the refereeing performance from Brandon Stevis helped at all. I'll get into that later. I'm going to say that with a caveat that the referee did not cost Rising this game whatsoever.
Correct.
And honestly, I think just getting into the goal right now, Rising's defending on that goal was poor. Obviously, they have that mess in the middle, but then there's about 3-4 players stood flat-footed right when Stefan Lukic takes that shot, where you're almost in the way of Rakowski's sightline. You're not allowing him the best view of the ball. It's obviously a shot that I don't think he saves anyway, but still, they're just stood there, and all of a sudden your season ends just like that when you're probably 10 seconds away from going to a penalty shootout, and who knows what happens there.
Yeah. There's it's crazy whenever we do these post games, right? And you're processing a lot in real time, and it's still I don't think it's still processing what everything we just watched. Especially you go through the slog of it's 90 minutes. Okay, what one or two combined shots on target for both teams, then you go an extra 30, and your mindset's already setting up for PKs. The scenarios are going in your head. You even it is a crapshoot, right? It very much would be. Some might fancy Phoenix Rising's chances given their past success, how they've done earlier this year, and that's going to be a story for another day. It's something that in an alternative timeline they could be kicking penalties, and Rising may go on to the Western Conference Finals. They could even be hosting a depending on how that match is going. I actually don't know if it's still 1-1.
I think I thought New Mexico ended up taking the lead.
Fair. But right, that's for another day. I do have to shout out everyone in the chat, by the way. Please, thank you, and leave a like on your way in here. We got Philly Rovers in the chat. Going on Pat, now that the playoffs. Jacob in the chat. Bandito's Bluebird. Goalie man, Pat. Kevin in the chat. First off, we appreciate the fans voicing their opinion as always. That's what we love about what we're doing. And it's there's a lot to dissect. I mean, the goal at the end, there's so much to talk about. And honestly, I think because it's fresh, I'm more than happy to start there. And I know you kind of set the ball rolling. I think in that moment, it's such a chaotic situation, right? Balls trying to get cleared, kind of going up in the air. There, you're not able to clear your lines, but there's still that moment where you called it out very well. I think there's the difference where in those moments, and there are such razor thin margins, Rising had a valiant defense, throughout this match, the bend don't break defense, even going into last week, even during this stretch, to end this season. But that last goal, that bit of hesitation, that freeze where you have those bodies in the way, do we know if it impacts the shot, right? Time will tell, and who knows. But I think in that moment, it's really tough when you have put your body on the line for 120 minutes and just you're kind of freezing up, and that's just kind of where you're at,
Exactly. Look who joined us.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Live from Tulsa, indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you describe that? Let's be real. How do you describe that? It's a gut punch, isn't it?
It is.
It was the final kick of the game.
Yes.
You're standing there as they come down the other end celebrating, and you just see Brandon Stevens kind of like trying to open up a little gate behind you, and you're kind of wondering, oh, was that it then? Like, you knew time-wise it was getting there. I mean, I said very much. I turned around to Mahir, who's on the radio broadcast, who was down there pitch side with me at the time, and I said, you see two Rising subs up there, they make the choice not to put them in at that moment, presumably because they're thinking, okay, you want the height of a Pat boy in there in order to try and, get something in terms of just, staying alive, really, in that moment. But the problem that you have, more than anything then, is well, if the final whistle goes, you're not getting your guys in for the penalty shootout. Right. In this case, it doesn't really matter in the end. But gosh, what a cruel way in some ways to just end the season right there.
It is, and there's so much, right? I mean, we were kind of talking about the top. Like, there's a lot we can get to overall from this match. So because we're on the goal, specifically on the goal, it's fresh in our mind in the final moments. Anything different from your vantage point, right? Rees brought it up, and we were talking a bit about it. That right, the ball kind of seemingly looped in the air forever. Honestly, you can't take anything away from the shot. Very well placed. A couple Rising players in the way. It's hard to tell. Maybe it seems like that ball very well could go in either way. Is there anything different you saw being pitch side?
Honestly, I was behind the other goal, so there's not a lot that you get from there. But you kind of make. Ball goes in, you've just got to clear your lines. In a lot of ways, it felt as though Tulsa's ball's in. They had those moments. They had those moments on the break, time and time again during this match. But what you find is that they wouldn't get the ball to the right place. They'd throw a ball in there and just couldn't seem to find their men going forward. In this case, it's just one of those ones, you don't clear your lines, it bounces around enough. You've kind of got to get it out of there. It's that late in the game that it's stay alive point, really. And in this case, Rising didn't do that.
Yeah, 100%. Let's actually take a look, by the way. I believe we have to buy the numbers. Let's see if we're able to pull those.
We'll grab that here in a second, Max.
Appreciate you, Damon. Damon, producer extraordinaire. Right, we're in 4 different places at once. We're doing all that we can. Right, as we're kind of talking about the game overall, right, it was very much right. It was a gross, right? Rees called it very bluntly. It's a gross match, right? Like, 2 combined shots on target, right? Leading into that final kind of flurry in the last minute. You kind of always thought, right, especially as the game was going on, we both know how these defenses are. This was going to be a game very hard pressed for goals, at least kind of what we assumed, or at least as you watch the game play out. Felt it's going to go, okay, it's going to go 90 minutes. Okay, it's going to go, an extra 30. Okay, it might go kicks from the mark. There were chances here and there. I mean, when you're kind of watching this there, is it fair to say, hey, was there a more decisive side looking on from, when we're watching the broadcast? Seems like Rising, there was a chance here or there. It seemed like Tulsa had a few more chances, but it really could have been anyone's match, especially when you get to a potential penalty kick situation.
I think it was a game of ebbs and flows. Look, both teams had moments in that game where it felt as though if someone was going to get the breakthrough, it was going to be them. Early doors, it was Rising. Remainder of the first half, it was Tulsa. Large spells in the second half, felt like it was Tulsa, but Rising had a couple of flurries in there as well themselves. I think when you look then into extra time, again, it was won by maybe the first half of extra time. You see it probably being more Tulsa, times in the second half of extra time, it's Tulsa as well, but Rising had opportunities as well. Look, it's one of those games where I think both teams will look back at the 90, look back at the 120, and say, we could have got a goal in there sooner. There were a few chances, there were a few moments. I think Tulsa probably did have the more clear-cut chances that they just didn't make the most of. But that's not to say that Rising didn't have opportunities as well. I mean, at the end of the day, Tulsa spent most of that game completely unable to hit the target.
Correct.
Pretty critical part of putting an attack together here, but it's just one of those. It was kind of, I recall at halftime having a chat with someone, and the consensus just being, it felt like a lot happened and also nothing happened in the first half. And that summed up, I think, large spells of the game. There were times when people would be, you feel like, oh, maybe they're half knocking on the door, but they just didn't get the shots off in the end. They didn't find ways to turn that into something that was genuinely going to threaten. And I think that's the story of much of this game.
Yeah, totally fair. Rees, I'm curious as well, when we're kind of trying to zoom out and we're even looking at how this match is approached, right? We see same starting 11, same one as last week, same one as consistent weeks in a row. Right, you see some players, right, due to kind of injury, due to fitness, maybe lack of some of the guys potentially could want to bring there, but you're even kind of looking some subs left later on. Owen, you kind of touched on it on, some, the likes of Darius Formella, for example, knowing taking PKs, left brought on, didn't end up getting on within that 120th minute. When we're looking at anything from the starting 11 to the substitutions, was this one where we thought Pa-Modou Kah, like his choices there? Do we think he could have gone with a different approach? It's easy to say in hindsight, but I'm curious now after the match is done.
I think that going with this Hope Avievu false nine, as Rybales brings up in the chat, it didn't work tonight. It didn't work in even the slightest. It felt like he was just wandering around the pitch for a large part of it, doing nothing. And I understand why they've gone to that in some parts of the season, but tonight it was just not one of those nights where it works. Now, to caveat that point, they bring on Isan Sako in extra time, I believe it was, and Sako has a chance on goal, and he just kind of makes a mess of it. He waits a second too long. I think that kind of
the defender gets in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it represents really a big part of this team's struggles this season is that they didn't really have that full, proper, out-and-out number 9 from the get-go, and that's honestly been a problem beyond this season. It's been the last couple of years where this team has players that can play at the 9, but they're not going to be strictly number 9s, and I think that's something that needs to change heading into next season and beyond.
Does Hope Avievu come back? I mean,
I think
if you stick with this kind of a shape, if you stick with this kind of an approach to the game, is he the right guy to play in any role really in this lineup? That's kind of the critical thing. You've also got to remember, is this possibly the highest productivity season you're going to be able to get out of the guy?
I agree on
a lot of assists. He's gotten goals in there as well. Is this as high as Hope Avievu's ceiling goes in terms of value to move the guy on? If you think that he doesn't fit into the system that you're trying to play, I think, look, we've seen this club very much adopt this current identity, the 3-4-3 or back five, or however you want to kind of describe it. Okay, they've adopted this to the end of this at the end of the season. The question now really is that the objective going forward? Are you going to be putting the boys out in this kind of a shape going forward with these kind of roles going forward? Because if this was just a playoff thing, sure, maybe you have a role still because you're going to go back and try and make the back four work. If this is the goal going forward, does Hope fit in that side? Could that have been the last time we see Hope for Phoenix Rising?
I don't think that Hope fits in this system at all because you don't have that 10. The false 9 thing worked in some cases, but I wouldn't say for the whole the whole experiment that it was successful. I know it got you into the playoffs and it got you good seeding and got you far into it, but I wouldn't call it a successful experiment. And to what you're saying about is this the best season that we'll see from Hope? I think so, because a guy like him, he's not the most physical. A lot of his assists and chances created early in the season came off set pieces. Those kind of dried up as the season went on. I think he is a quality player, but I just don't think he ever really has the season as productive as this year again.
I mean, I see Rye's comment in there that I hope fits any system at this level, but I feel as though I've got to be perfectly frank with you. I don't think I've seen it this past month.
No.
I think you've seen his goal contributions completely dry up. The team as a whole, but you're just not seeing it. Is the thing. His April and May were absolutely ridiculous in a completely different shape.
Yep.
There isn't the role for a kind of floating number 10 type. It doesn't exist in this 3-4-3 that they're coming out with. And so when you look at it from that lens, I'm not sure if there's a role for him going forward, to be honest, if they stick with this shape.
Oh, it's a lot of the existential, longer-term, future planning, off-season conversations we are going to have at some point. But it's hitting extra heavy, especially after this match. Rising eliminated. We got more to discuss from this match, and we'll do so on the other side of the break. Awesome. Well, we got to shout out our friends over at Circle K. Circle K, right? Love them. They're providing with all the good stuff going on. Not just here in Arizona. You're the guy. Circle K is out in Tulsa. That right, Owen? You hit up your Circle K's out there.
I'm not sure that they do.
It's crazy.
Is what I heard. I heard. I know a couple of the boys drove over here. I'm not sure that they do.
We'll guarantee it. I know they had some. If you did drive out to Tulsa, which is a quite the doozy. You could have hit some on Circle K. We hit some in Lordsburg, and whatnot on our way to El Paso last week. Definitely can make some out on your drive for those who did make it to Tulsa.
Okay. New Mexico.
We've already talked about some low points, and New Mexico being one of them. There's already enough hardship tonight, but Circle K, not bringing up the hardship, bringing up the vibes. Check out your local Circle K. Again, join the Inner Circle program. All you need to do is download the Circle K app, opt in for free, save 25% off per gallon on their first 5 fill-ups, and it's fantastic. That's all you darn need. Check them out, Circle K. Love you guys. Also, shout out our friends over at Access Insurance Agency of Arizona. For more than 15 years, Access Insurance Agency of Arizona has provided affordable and reliable car insurance to drivers in the Phoenix metro area. As a dedicated part of the local community, Access Auto helps Arizona drivers get insured by offering flexible coverage options and accepting various forms of ID, driving histories, and license types. By partnering with over 20 insurance carriers, they make it easy for you to compare rates and find the best policy for your budget. With bilingual Spanish-speaking agents at 9 convenient locations across the valley, Access agents are ready to assist customers in finding the right coverage for their budgets and identifying available discounts. Both cash and card payments are accepted for added convenience. Access Auto, trusted by the community, rooted in Phoenix, and ready to help. All statements are subject to the terms, exclusions, and conditions of the applicable policy. In all instances, a currency policy contract language prevails. Coverage is subject to individual policy holders, meeting underwriting qualifications and state availability. Other terms, conditions, and exclusions may apply. Shout out our friends over at Access Auto. And we're back on the PHNX Rising post-game show. Let's look at some numbers, by the way, presented by our friends over at Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union, trusted by Forbes. As we get that pulled up here in a little bit, I know Damon, producer extraordinaire, working on it. We can talk through this at a very high level, right, as we're getting those numbers pulled up. Guys, 0.64 XG for Phoenix Rising, 1.56 for Tulsa. A lot of that coming on the goal, although be it from a tight angle. Possession, 54 for Rising, 46 for Tulsa. You're even kind of looking at these, right, with shots, 13-11, shots on goal, 1-1. Again, it's a cagey match. I think this one, you saw that while there was a lot of the scrap within the middle of the park, seemed like there was a little bit more verticality compared to Rising's last match at El Paso. You're just not seeing as much come off on the final third, similar to last week. Is this one where we think that the stats kind of match the eye test here? Or do you think that this kind of sums up, yep, it was a match with 2 combined shots on target and not a whole lot else?
I'm kind of shocked there were that many shots, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying, right? I was like, where did we see double digits?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I mean,
not one of those games that makes you feel as though there's a lot going on, is there, in front of goal?
Not quite. Goodness, the chat, we're just, I love it. This is what we do. This is why we do this post games chat. Keep on lobbing in those questions, comments, everything like that. And only because I don't have the videos out in front of me. I know you got some clips from Pa-Modou Kah. Anything you want to?
We do. Let's just take the overall thoughts on this game from rising coach Pa-Modou Kah.
Incredible fight from our boys. It's a hard one to take because I think overall of the match we played very well. We limited them, everything they threw at us. We did a great job. It was just not meant to be for this time, but we're going to take this lesson and we're going to come back stronger next year.
I mean, yeah, it's especially after a tough ending. I don't know much more you can say. That pretty much sums it up there.
I mean, exactly. There's not much more to say. It's kind of standard coach speak as well, with how you want to come back stronger next year. But
of course,
I mean, again, after a game like that, I feel like you have to have pride in the defensive performance for 121 minutes of the game. But ending like that just is brutal.
Yeah. I mean,
I think the thing about it is look, I see like there's obviously people saying what they're saying in the chat right now. I'll take Godyman Pat to an extent with the fact that it's just we did very well except for any semblance of attack. I will say this is the thing when we've spoken about this changed shape. We I think been quite upfront about the fact that this is a team now that is suddenly very difficult to score against.
Yeah,
but they're just not offering very much up top. And it means that you've really got to take the one or two real clear-cut chances that you're going to get, because they're not going to create more than that. This again, is it because of the lack of a true nine? Is it because you've got Hope playing that kind of false nine that isn't really him necessarily? Isn't getting the best out of him? I don't know. It's.
I think it goes back to something that I've spoke about before, is that this front three gets left on an island, and because of that, that's why Hope was trying to wander as much as he did, but it didn't end up working. Your two wingbacks in Ryan Flood and Asela Senge, can you remember them doing anything in the final third? The only thing that I can remember is Ryan Flood taking a shot from the left wing, left half space.
I remember you texting me immediately after that happened.
Yeah, it was not a good shot.
Was that a shot or was it just a really poor cross? I thought that was just a really poor cross.
Don't ask me. I could not tell you. Who knows?
Yeah.
You can't blame it on injuries, but Colin Smith and Danny Flores in this game, I do think makes a little bit of a difference. And I think that was the same for last week's game, the same for pretty much every game they've missed, because of the quality that those two players bring. Obviously, Flores is a little bit better of a player than Smith is, but it's still so much going forward. That's what those two guys are going to bring to the table every single match.
Right, yeah. That's the question for me, right? When we look at the way that this season ended, we can say, okay, the adjustment they made to the back five, as Pa himself said weeks ago, this is sometimes you got to work with what you've got. This is what we've got. This is the right way to put the players out in terms of who we have there to use. Is that the question? Is that still the case when you are having to play with Asela Senge as a wing back, when you've got Ryan Flood out there without a real replacement for him? Is that still the case? That's the question for me. It's difficult, I think, in some ways to always predict, how maybe things go if you change back to the back four. Are you conceding goals? But is the back five the right thing to do in that case when we know the limitations it gives in the attack, especially again playing in a game like this against Tulsa, who are a pretty decent side? Are they going to eventually find that breakthrough anyway?
I do think that we have to give the back three, back five credit, because I don't think that this team get to this position without it. I mean, you win that game in North Carolina, you beat San Antonio, you draw on the road against Pittsburgh. That's 7 points in the last 3 games that push them
Correct.
into the 5th seed. And then the last 2 games, they've gone very well with it. I think if you stay with that back four, you open yourselves up a little too much. Yes, the attack's there, but in the playoffs, you're going to see, like tonight, teams are going to bunker down and be willing to defend. That I think Rising would be overexposed with the back four, and the quality of chances that they would be able to produce and be able to finish wouldn't be there.
Yeah, it's very interesting how, right, we talk about this, and even if we zoom out even further, right, we're talking about this Phoenix Rising team, and we're, kind of going back and forth, right? Formation, back 3, back 5, right? The, how this team has really come across defensively, and yet they're not offering much in attack. This is not a good thing. This is not a bad thing. This is, based on people's personal preference, right? But like, I'm trying to even remember, right? The last time we played, well, not the last time, but the first time we played Tulsa earlier in this season, this is a drastically different situation, right? Where, as you saw the start of the season unfold, Phoenix Rising was the exact opposite, right? Where it was all attack. They're good for 2-3 goals a game. There was a lot of attacking output, but there was no cohesion in the midfield, and the defense was just leaking, and you're just getting into shootouts every single game. As you saw the season progress, they completely 180'd and say, we are going to be built for the playoffs. We do not care if we're going to have to scrap out a 0-0 every single match. Granted, that's not their intention going in, but like were set up to be more comfortable playing that way. So it's going to be interesting of, right, what that looks like going into next season. Even in retrospect, was this the right one now? But I do agree with Rees. I don't think you get to that point unless you make the change. The other thing that was interesting for this match.
Can I just hop in on one thing there? I agree with the premise here. I do. However, I will point out the fact that you didn't have such a hamstrung attack by the lack of having Colin Smith, Danny Flores available until the Pittsburgh game. Only one game. And yes, did they defend well enough in that game? Yes, they did. Although, again, even then, I always have looked at it and thought, did Pittsburgh miss more chances as well that they probably should have put away? Yep. And I think they did in that one. Yep. But we saw Rising had the exact same issue in terms of chance creation there. They didn't do anything until they brought on Remy Cabral and Isan Sacco. The simple fact is that with this front three, they aren't creating chances. Correct. When you don't have the wing backs that you want at your disposal. They are not creating chances in this case. And that kind of goes back to, again, what I meant with was this the right way to approach the end of the season? It's hindsight. You can't say specifically yes or specifically no. We'll never know. We'll never know if you approach something differently. Do you end up with a different outcome? But the simple fact is that this team, we can point to the lack of goals conceded, but we also need to ask ourselves, when was the last goal that wasn't a penalty? And it was early-ish in that San Antonio game, was it not?
Sounds about right.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. No, and I think that's the thing of, there's a way to be built for playoffs, but knowing that if you continue to stretch these matches, go 90 minutes, you go 120, something like this, I don't want to say it's bound to happen, but it very well can. And you are playing on the edge. The other thing I was going to bring up is when you look at that wing backs, it would have been interesting, right, if there was a completely different dynamic with Smith, Flores in as well, because especially within this match, you saw that Tulsa was playing up with their wing backs and their wingers incredibly aggressively, trying to jump passes, trying to kickstart on the counter. I'm very curious if Rising was able to slip in behind and kind of bypass some of those that attacking pressing. Rising could have been on a counter, maybe offer a little bit more within the delivery. It certainly would have been a different match within complexion there. And listen, this goes back to even the initial kind of thing we were talking about is you are never going to have your fit starting 11 or your starters who you want in there or your squad healthy all at the same time. If you do, it is a blessing. It is a luxury. It rarely happens in this league or within the game, right? That's just a fact. You have to be able to adjust accordingly. And if you are going to stick with your same formation, it is tough to then expect, hey, this is exactly how I want to play without the right players. That is not an excuse for Pa-Modou Kah or the staff, but is the reality that we were set in. And it's kind of played out within this matchup. When you bring back the starting 11, 3 matches in a row, it works, and then it doesn't. You're then having to decipher, was it the starting 11 or was it the game, how it played out? It's tough. Like, right, we can go back and forth on this all day long, 100%.
100%. Can I address one thing in the chat? It's on a separate tangent, but before we move on here, people talking about all the baseball fields, of course. James Wilson says the Western Conference Final will be on a baseball pitch and the championship could be on a baseball pitch. No, James. The USL Final will be on a baseball pitch. Both Tulsa and New Mexico do have the upper hand on the Eastern Conference teams that remain alive at this point. So the final will be played either in Tulsa or in Albuquerque. To be clear,
name
on that,
two better cities.
Pittsburgh come in 7 on the hosting priority. The other team that remain alive over there, Rhode Island, were 14th in the hosting priority. Tulsa and New Mexico are 3rd and 5th, respectively. The cup runs through the West at this point. It will be on a baseball pitch at 11 in the morning local. Thank you, Gollyman Pat, for the correct point there. It will be 11 in the morning local as well.
This is USL heritage.
It's
just like getting kicked off the broadcast.
Game is surely gone, Devin says.
There is.
Yeah, really.
No, absolutely. Yes.
No, the game won't be truly gone until New Mexico win the title.
Oh no! You know what? I'll come back to that in a minute. Max, give us some ads, and I'll come back.
I was going to say let's very much cut to an ad and get that thought, that taste out of our mouths. Yes, well, we'll be right back inside the break. Oh man, goodness. Well, listen, you got to try to keep your heads after a match like this. You can keep your heads with our friends over at Branded Bills. Branded Bills, they have the headwear to fit your head, your friend's head. Give it to anyone, right? It's the gifting season. Holidays are around the corner. Make sure to head to brandedbills.com. Use that promo code BBPHNX for 15% off your order. They have all the great lids, right? ASU, U of A, Phoenix Suns. They got all the gear. Colleges throughout the nation. They have custom orders. We've done our PHNX collabs hats with them. Branded Bills, right? I wish I could be in the studio. I wish I didn't have to be doing a sad post game. I wish I could be in the studio wearing 5, 6, 7, 8 hats that these guys put on my head, and my neck is okay. Gosh darn it! Every time my neck is heavy from all those Branded Bills, but it's okay. It's a good thing because we love our friends over at Branded Bills. Again, one more time, go to brandedbills.com. Use that promo code BBPHNX for 15% off your order. Enjoy some quality headwear, not just some quality headwear, the best headwear in the game. That's, it's not just one ad man's opinion. That's just a fact. Do it today. Help support our show. We appreciate you guys. Also, shout out to friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I'm going to be out there at Wild Horse Pass tomorrow. We're going to be doing our PHNX Cardinals live watch party out there at the Wild Horse Pass location in their upper deck area. It's fantastic, right? Of course, we've all been to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. They have the 4 locations throughout the valley. I was awestruck when we were coming in from our New Mexico trip, right? It's a great place, right? You want to go, especially have some fun after this tough Rising match. Head on over to their 4 locations, Gila River Resorts and Casinos.
I wasn't fully listening to that. I've got to be real. I thought you were saying Albuquerque was a great place. Gila River, yes, I'll endorse that one. Albuquerque.
Oh no, certainly not Albuquerque. No. I was saying when we were coming back from New Mexico and we entered, and I saw the lights of Wild Horse Pass. Civilization and sustenance, which is our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com to learn more. Back, PHNX Rising podcast.
Right, gents, I've got 2 things. Sorry, can we do 2 things? Because I'm going to have to bounce, unfortunately, from here. But there's 2 things I kind of want to cover before I get out of here. Right, number one, I did just make that comment before. Because Rees, of course, brings up someone saying something about New Mexico. I will say that all I know is the message I've been giving to people here is please at least make sure they don't win a trophy. I think Rees is a huge FC Tulsa fan next Saturday.
Absolutely. I've been an FC Tulsa fan since like 9 p.m. today. And
to be fair, Orange County could have won that one. And while it's still Orange County and you kind of
that is true. Yeah,
it's a bit of a different story at that point. I think, I may or may not have made a comment to someone on the other side there about that one, about go and win it now, please. Because I know that for a lot of Rising fans, New Mexico lifting a trophy is going to be insufferable. Why you also wouldn't want to play them next week, by the way. You don't want to wish that miss.
Goodbye, Owen.
However, the other thing I do want to raise quickly.
That was ominous.
The other thing I do want to raise Did I just disappear there for a second?
Kind of
Yeah.
froze for a second.
Realize that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, it's like the defense in that last minute.
Boy.
Oh,
Yeah,
too soon.
Too soon. The only other comment that I would make here, by the way, I did catch up with Pa-Modou Kah, asked him about just kind of message for the fans, thinking towards this off season and what he'd say to them, and here's what he had to say.
Our fans has been brilliant whole season long, all right? And for us, we want to continue to make them proud. We want to continue to make the club proud. We want to continue to make our community proud. It's obviously a tough loss to take, but this is something that we're building, and we're going to keep building. So next year is going to be a great year.
Yep. That's the last words of the year, by the way.
Yeah.
Ominous.
The season's over.
It is, yeah.
The other thing I'm going to add, Tulsa were playing some kind of like going back to Arizona song after the final whistle. So, yeah.
That's
the faces some of these boys.
Write it down and screenshot it. Put as the wallpaper. Don't forget until next season, right?
Rees is never forgiven. He is the biggest Pittsburgh and Rhode Island fan you have ever seen.
Oh,
in your
absolutely.
Life.
Now I am. Yeah, my FC Tulsa fandom gone.
Well, no, it lasts until final whistle on next weekend.
That is true.
Purely to deal in New Mexico. All right. Jens, any last thoughts for me?
Enjoy not going to Albuquerque.
That's very true. I will do. I will very much enjoy not going to Albuquerque. Thank you very much, Rees.
I know we're gonna talk
I'm sure
about
I'll be from the airport tomorrow, so guys, get ready for my end.
Oh, your flight's not getting canceled. That's also good.
Not yet.
Yeah, I definitely just jinxed it.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm absolutely
not getting back to Phoenix until Wednesday.
Yeah,
as I'm flying back with unnamed airline because I don't want to ruin
thank you.
Whatever Max may or may not have up his sleeve.
Sure. I know we're going to talk about it on Wednesday. I know we're going to talk about it in the subsequent.
Gents, I may not be there on Wednesday. I'm not going to lie. I'm dropping.
That's right.
Here, I'm afraid.
That's
Thank
fair.
you.
Well, then all the
off season.
Well, there we go. Well, then Wales away.
Well,
then all the more reason for me to ask this. It's raw. There's a lot going on, and I know it may be tough to zoom out. But when you look on this Phoenix Rising season as a whole, especially from where it started to where it finished, what are your thoughts?
I see a process. I think certain things, especially if they're going forward with this back kind of like 3-4-3, I wonder why it took so long to get to this point, if that was what you wanted. I know that you didn't.
That was definitely going to be insightful.
In the back four.
That's just. Someone please screen grab that.
It's one of those things where you just kind of wonder, did they have the chance to kind of work that out, that's what they wanted to do earlier in the season. That's one of my big takeaways. At the same time, I saw a team that grew in certain ways over the year. I do feel as though that I understand what Pa is trying to do at the moment with this team. I think they made some good at mid-season acquisitions. Some were bigger than others. I think we look at probably really the last two in Rafa and Eric just completely, I think, changed the fortunes of this team in the stretch. You compare that with someone like Emmers, who I think did not change the season in the way this team would have hoped that he would have done. And I think a lot of it comes down now to whether they get the off-season right. One of the big parts of that is going to be whether they probably get the striker in that they need. Do they change things up with the goalkeeping? Is Patrick Krakowski the guy you choose to stick to? Are some of the defenders going to be coming back? Guys who've been on loan, are they coming back? These are all huge questions going into the off-season. I believe they're going to try and bring back a much more common core, I'd say, from this season into next, and try and build on that rather than blow it up and start all over again. That, of course, is welcome in some ways, but it depends on how well they execute that. That's going to be the challenge. We've got a fair few months now to see how they pull this together, if they can make things into that next step up that you want. But the simple fact is here now, this team finished fifth in a kind of meh West. Yeah. Got past the first game against an El Paso team that offered nothing, came into Tulsa, held them really well. There was no team in the West, I think, that we feared this year, and I think tonight showed that, as did last week. And yet at the same time, now you've set a bar. This team needs to host a playoff game next year. There is no question. There is no excuse. This team needs to build. They finished 5th this year. If you're not finishing higher, you're not progressing. That's the simple fact. And so they've now set a bar, and it's up to them to go out and meet it.
Amen. Well, to send you out on your way, Devin on the chat, Owen to Vacation FC. Here we go.
Apparently so. Apparently
safe
so.
Safe travels, man.
All right, lads. I will see you back in Phoenix.
Later, man. Oh boy. And then there were 2. Yeah, there's
Max in it here. One word you said there, bud.
Oh, I said, and then there were 2. Here we are.
I can't hear you, Max. Can you hear me?
You keep talking. Give me a sec.
Okay. Well, that's awesome, Max. I appreciate you talking so much because your thoughts there were just very insightful. Wait, what's happened? Give me 1 second, Max.
There we go. Oh, well, here we go. We gotta love a technical difficulty. Let's see. All right. Well, hopefully everyone can hear me. Otherwise, it's going to be a fun stream. Damon Dog in the chat. Gotta love it. Cool. Get Rees out. It's the Max Simpson Show. What everyone wanted. Not really, but here we are. Let's read some in the chat as we're getting back to it, right? Saw Rob Bales in the chat. This was a fun one for me. Better false 9, Sacco or Richarlison. That's a tough watch this morning. We're not going to talk about that, although Richarlison bagged one. So jury is out there. Goyman Pat, Danny Stone making a final would be a perfect cherry on top. It's going to be a weird reality, man, if that is the case.
There we go.
How things change.
We're back.
Change so quickly. What's up, man? I was just reading some of what the chat has to offer. Goodness, yes, professional podcast. We're doing our thing here.
It's all right. Owen's gone now, so it's much more professional.
Oh, so much more professional. No, it's it's going to be interesting, especially as we talk, on Wednesday and the weeks to come of just what this season kind of meant and the platform to build on. I don't disagree with what Owen's saying, right? I mean, the West, it's pretty tight. It is very much anyone's game, and I think we even talked about it. This club has higher ambitions of wanting to host a home playoff match. They talk about wanting to, be the status for professional soccer in Arizona that they want to, especially where they see themselves in the league. You have to host a home playoff match, and that's not an arbitrary end all be all. It's also that's a very clear watermark of if you can finish in top 4, and not just for a one season off and then go back to the mean, but if you can consistently finish in the top 4, we've seen that even on the East side, right? Of you see the Charlestons, you see the Louisvilles, granted, maybe not so great in the first round, but you have seen that they have been able to build themselves a platform of we are one of the premier teams in that conference because they're able to prove it week in and week out of the regular season. We're not going to get too far ahead into 2026. It's a conversation for another day, but in terms of where Owen left off, very much agree of that's where this club needs to go. And I think when you do kind of look at the season as a whole, very much a lot of strides were made in terms of you saw players progressing, saw people coming back, but then it also brings up of what formation are they going to be rocking with? What players are going to be back next year? How different are things going to look? Because this team, ever since, really, you're talking about 2022 was the last year of somewhat back-to-back consistency with this team in terms of coaching staff and personnel. 2023, Juan Guerra comes in. He then leaves in the offseason. 2024, Danny Stone comes in. Then, he's fired. And then you went through 4 different managers within one calendar year. 2025, Pa-Modou Kah comes in this year. It's going to be interesting if this team, they're now going to have for the first time in years, back-to-back years, all things considered, if everything right, unless some development happens, a good positive negative, whatever, of you're going to have the same manager in back-to-back years for the entirety of seasons, or at least going into the season. That's not for nothing. So I am curious what they build on.
I would say don't jinx it though, Max. Pa-Modou Kah has interviewed for MLS jobs in the past, so
That's
don't
fair.
jinx it. But
that's fair. Again, I might have just given the Max Simpson curse. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry in advance.
I also think when you look back at this season, and really you take the feelings that you're feeling today when you think about the whole season, compared to this same time last year when they lost to New Mexico in that playoff game, and you look back at how that season went, obviously it kind of ends the same way. You don't play a home playoff game. Yes, the Horizon go one round further in this in this season. But there's a lot more optimism, I'd say, this time around, because last year you don't really. I know the rumors for Pa-Modou Kah were there, but you don't really know if that's going to happen. You've got Diego Gomez in there, who, quite frankly, wasn't good enough for this level. We've talked about that quite a few times. It's a fair assessment to make there. But now there's stability, which brings optimism, and now it's time for Rising to build on that.
100%. They need to rise to the occasion.
Oh my God.
All right. We got one more.
I'm leaving again, Max. I'm leaving again.
That's fair. This time by your own accord, by your own choice. We got one more break. We'll catch you on the other side to talk more Phoenix Rising and from this match. Well, shout out to friends over at Rally House. Rally House, they got all the sicko gear. You guys know I'm telling you about it all the time, right? Again, not just Phoenix Rising gear for the Suns who are currently playing, local channel, decided to play Suns on this lovely playoff occasion. But hey, you can rep the Suns with Rally House, as well as Cardinals, D-backs, ASU, even U of A, Phoenix Rising, Phoenix Mercury, everything there at their 3 Valley locations, as well as at rallyhouse.com for all the best stuff. And we're not just talking jerseys, shirts, we're talking like the sicko stuff, like the obscure things that, like, wait, if I walk into your house and I see like you have that Phoenix Rising mug, you have that Phoenix Rising accessory, that's how I know you're a diehard fan. They have it at Rally House. They have that for all the teams out there. Check out rallyhouse.com. The prices are fantastic too. Go check them out. Better than any other sporting goods store here in the Valley. It is the best. Rallyhouse.com. Do it today, again, or shop them online, especially ahead of the holiday season. Auto, shout out our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays got to be looking good. Trying to just block out this match as much as you can. Got to do what you can, right? Shady Rays. Go to the shadyrays.com, promo code PHNX for 35% off your order. Again, these shades rated 5 stars or better by hundreds of thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands of people. That's enough to fill like Tulsa, like I think 3 times over, maybe. I don't know. I don't know the population of Tulsa. That's probably that's probably something for you to fill up. But all those people and
413,000. So you're actually probably not that far off.
That's kind of what I'm saying, right? Shady Rays, they can fill Tulsa, they can fill Phoenix, right? All these different places, but they really are nationwide. People love Shady Rays. ShadyRays.com, again, promo code PHNX for 35% off that order. Again, it is the holiday season. Absolutely great time to gift someone them, and honestly, way more affordable of shades than you think, especially compared to competitors, but also way better policies of loss and replacement. Look good, feel good. All I own is Shady Rays. Go check them out today. We got everyone in the chat. Appreciate you guys sticking with us as we are nearing the hour mark in a handful of minutes. PHNX Rising post-game show. Right. So there's so much to talk about. I know we've kind of, we've dissected this game. We've zoomed out a little bit further to kind of look at the entire season. Look again. Say something, by the way. Hit me.
I do. I've got one final thing to say on this game, but I want to get it out now because I've been just waiting to go. 48 minutes in. I promised earlier. Referee Brandon Stevens.
Yes, I was going to bring it up next. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Horrible performance. And I it's not why Rising lost. I want to be very clear there.
I agree.
Rising did not lose the game because Brandon Stevens was bad. Did it play a part? Maybe. That's up for you to decide. I don't think so. Now, with that being said, I do think that the incident between Lamar Batista and Darius Johnson, when those two had that shoving incident, you can debate all you want on if that should have been 2 reds, one for Batista, one for Johnson. I don't personally think so. I don't mind the 2 yellows in that situation. The issue is Batista should have received a second yellow there. He should have received the yellow early in the game. He threw the ball onto the pitch early in the game to literally Rising. We're on a counterattack. They would have had a throw, and he throws the ball on the pitch. Should have been a yellow. It's a textbook yellow. It's a yellow every day of the week because he's stopping the restart of play. Brandon Stevens doesn't give it. And so Lamar Batista ends up finishing the game, and he plays pretty well down the stretch as well. Rising could have finished this game with a man advantage. And the fact that it didn't, I think that stings a little bit. Now, again, is that the reason why Rising lost? No, but Brandon Stevens was bad tonight. He was bad.
Yeah, 100%. And chat, please join in as well with your thoughts. I mean, I very much agree with you wholeheartedly. I in no way was, I think this is the reason why Rising lost. Rising lost because of how they lost, right? They lost on their own accord, got beat by a Tulsa team with a very good shot at the end, right? I do agree with you that, and like, listen, you know me, I am very much all for like, let the boys play. I don't want referees to be the storyline. I don't want them to insert themselves into the match. I don't want them to re-referee situations. That being said, I think if you are going to let some of that extracurricular stuff go on early, or you're calling, okay, you're maybe not calling fouls, you're calling fouls, and you're not giving out yellow cards, I'm all for that. But once you kind of saw as the game went on, after you kind of get into like second, third, fourth infraction, you even see a moment in the first half where like he pulls over Charlie Dennis and he's like, hey, listen, you just fouled someone on a breakaway. That could have even been itself in a yellow card situation, but it's like, this was like your last warning. You had 2 or 3 others.
Yes.
Going to let it go. And again, like I'm not in no means am I rooting for this, but then Charlie Dennis goes on to, like, you see it later in the first half, a couple of times in the second half, like multiple fouls. I think he ends up escaping the match without a card.
Yeah.
But I think when you kind of let the game keep going, a little more, that's where you see situations kind of bubble like that, where that could have been 2 red cards. And listen, I totally agree. Like it's kind of a judgment call. I have no problem with him giving 2 yellows, but I think I don't want to say he fully lost control of the match, because I don't think that's accurate either. But I do think he did not insert himself in a way that I think a ref, especially at this playoff level, where I'm all for letting them play, you need to have a sort of balance on the match where you can't let it get away from you. And it did a little bit. Not fully, but a little bit.
I agree. And to Bandito's Bluebirds point, Rising never win with that ref.
We were talking about that.
Going.
Yeah.
He has given out 2 red cards earlier this season to Pa-Modou Kah. It was Rising's loss away to Orange County, that 4-1 ugly one. And coincidentally, the I can't remember. He might have. Yeah. He also gave Pa-Modou Kah one and Carl Saint one in the game that ended 3-1. That one where Darnell King played, that game feels like 10 years ago at this point. That game was 6 months ago or 8 months ago.
Gosh.
And that feels like ages. Rising also didn't beat Monterey Bay in 2024 when he was the referee. They did beat Memphis 6-0 in 2023 when he was the referee, but still, I think, I don't want to say he was bad, but I do wonder this is conspiracy. I don't really want to get into it, but the 2 reds to Pa-Modou Kah, and then you give him this playoff game. It's corrupt. No, I'm kidding, but
it's correct. I love it. No, we're gonna advance the agenda. Corruption, collusion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. I don't know. I think the letting the game play, I mean, at least that wasn't why. You can't say it was because the ref was trying to stop the match or calling a lot of fouls. That's why the game was choppy. Like, that's just kind of just choppy, because both teams were kind of inept on the attacking end, especially Rising. But I don't know. I the thing I keep going back to, and I know we talked about it a bit in the lineup, I'm curious as well to get the chat's opinion. Something that we maybe didn't touch upon too much, the substitutions. And this is kind of the gamemanship of, you kind of have a feeling as the match goes on, it's going to go into extra time. Then you were thinking of penalties. And we talked a bit about, not being able to get those last 2 subs on for kicks. And that's one thing. But I guess, like, knowing that this match was crying out from both teams, and Tulsa was very proactive in terms of they're bringing on a lot of attackers. They're trying to influence the game. I get Rising. It's not quite in the same position in terms of who they can bring on. But do you wish there was, in hindsight, maybe a bit more of the proactivity of, let's try to bring someone on a little bit early or change things up? Or do you think they were pretty content for the entire time? Let's go to kicks, or let's just not kind of stray from what we're doing?
I think that's difficult, because you look at the 3 guys that were brought on, Isan Sacco, Noble Akello, and Remy Cabral. Those are the 3 best players on that bench, and the 3 players that can come onto the pitch and do something, just because of the amount of injuries that you've had this season. I do wish that we saw them come on a little bit earlier into the game. I mean, Rising's first sub was in the 103rd minute when Sacco and Akello both came on, and then Remy Cabral came on the 110th minute. I think I would have liked to have seen it a little bit earlier, but as Goalieman Pat says, nobody on the sub bench is in any form a game changer, and I have to agree. It is it is a bit of a failure in team building, but I also think the injuries didn't help. I do want to comment on the Formella and Pierce Rizzo substitution that didn't happen right at the end. I think that's a weird substitution to make for penalties. I know you're taking off Morsu. I can't remember who Rizzo or who the other was.
Boy was the other
Palmer
one.
Boy.
Which that's kind of crazy to me.
I do think that's a little crazy to bring your captain off.
Yeah,
But I think the main thing that I don't like about that is Formella, last time he took a penalty for this team, he missed it against New Mexico United. Pierce Rizzo is 18 years old. He's never taken a penalty in his professional career. He's technically not a professional. He could go to college at any point. I don't like putting those two players in a spot where you're bringing them on to take a penalty. So I'd expect them to be within that first 5. I don't think those are two guys that are deserving of a spot like that. And that's not a discredit to them, really. I just think you can't put them on there.
Yeah. It's I think going back to, I think for me, and I totally agree with going with Pat of right knowing on the sub bench, right? They have some guys, but I don't think anyone a game changer. I think to me it was more of the when, and I think knowing that these guys, I'm not going to speak for them, right? Like they're professional athletes, but you are playing, right, the same starting 11 3 matches in a row. A lot of these guys playing significant minutes, and I get it, it's what they do, but to wait that long, like that's tough, and especially when you're trying to influence the game. And like again, like I totally also understand the tactical side of things. Of they were maybe they were looking to keep kind of where it was and kind of bunking down the fort. Didn't want to change things too much. Totally get it. I guess it's, you are playing a risky game if you don't try to influence it a bit more yourself. And I would have liked to see it a little bit sooner. I'm by no means are we talking halftime or anything like that, but to wait till, to your point, 103rd minute or whatever, little tough. And then going back to what you're saying of, right, the actual penalty kick takers. Don't love it. I mean, listen, like you never know how those things go, right? It's maybe like, maybe they're asking who wants to take a pen. Maybe it's just kind of like players stepping up. You never know how that looks. But I mean, from the optics of it on the outside, yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, and I do think that Rising's luck probably is going to run out on penalty shootouts soon. Now, who knows? Well, I guess it won't be soon.
Now it's reset.
We've got 6 months.
Now it's reset. Yeah.
I do think eventually,
season,
the next time Rising has a penalty shootout, the luck has to run dry at some point.
Also 6 months more. Like, I mean, by the time preseason and everything, we're talking like 2.5, 3 months. Like, let's call it.
Oh, I know. Exactly. I mean, the returners list is probably going to be released within this month, and then the first rumors are going to come out, and then the guys that we know are coming in are going to be in January. It's going to be a quick off season. It goes by quick every year, to be fair.
Man. Yeah, it does. You look at the fixtures, right, as we get it. And again, like, by the way, everyone, you guys already know, like, we're back on Wednesday doing all that stuff. But as it's fresh, as we're still kind of looking into it, right, we know who we want, or I guess we don't want, from the fan perspective, to win next week. But kind of in your gut reaction, right, where you have Tulsa hosting New Mexico, and then you have Pittsburgh hosting Rhode Island. Who do you think's playing in the final 2 weeks?
I think Pittsburgh's such a well-oiled machine. I do hate to say it. I think Tulsa showed signs of they might not be able to get through all the way.
Yeah.
I do think that New Mexico's probably end up going to prevail in the West. And then from there, that New Mexico-Pittsburgh final, if that happens, would be a coin flip. I would hate to say it, but I would probably go New Mexico in that game. I just think that Dennis Sanchez has found a way for them to win, and I think they've got too much quality as well.
Sure. Do they final going to be on ESPN again? ESPN
no, it's CBS.
It is CBS.
That's why it's the 11 a.m. local. It's noon Eastern.
It's literally going to be on a baseball pitch on big CBS. That's disgusting.
It's horrible.
Crazy. Oh, man,
this is what we want to present to the national audience.
This game is gone. Rees, I'll ask you the same thing I asked Owen. And again, we're going to talk about on Wednesday. There's a lot to dissect and deep dive on this, on the season, everything in the coming weeks. When you kind of look back on it, what was this 2025 season? What are you going to remember from it?
The chaos. without a doubt, because there's just so many games where Rising go up and then they draw, and they go down and somehow they draw. They just had so many games where you look at the scoreline and it is misleading, because Rising had game like the Detroit game 2-3. You think, oh, back and forth. No, Rising conceded 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. Oakland, Rising go down 3-0. El Paso, Rising go up 3-0 and draw 3-3. That's the thing I will remember most about this year's team and this year's season.
Yeah. Fair. Well, I will set mine for Wednesday. We got a lot to talk about. Appreciate everyone joining us here on the PHNX Rising podcast. So many of you guys here throughout the season joining us on a post game. Genuinely, we appreciate you. It's been a season of sorts for sure, but we do enjoy doing it. So you follow us on Twitter at PHNX__Rising, double the underscore.
Double. I don't know.
Chat helps out, yeah, but double the something, double the off season. I don't know. You can follow me.
Oh, I don't know if I want double the off season. That's.
I mean, to be fair, the off season is so short, it's not going to be
double the visits to Deming, New Mexico.
Absolutely not. You can follow me on Twitter at Max David Simpson. You can follow Owen on Twitter at OJ Evans 18. You can follow Rees on Twitter at Rees11_. You can follow our producer extraordinaire, Damon Dog, hitting it behind the screen here at Damon DAWG. Again, join us Wednesday. We'll be back in the weeks to come and all that stuff. Thank you again, everyone, so much for joining. We'll catch you in the midweek. It's a beautiful game, but it's way more beautiful when Phoenix Rising doesn't lose in heartbreaking fashion and get bounced from the USL Championship Playoffs. Good night.
We all silly like the mayor.